Here's Brody Brazil.
Let's first address the big baseball news, and then eventually that'll lead me to some bigger picture takeaways on this situation and how Major League Baseball might be forced to change because of it. Blake Snell reportedly just signed a 5-year, $182 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's not officially been announced by the team yet, but considering this photo is now on Snell's Instagram, you have to imagine that confirmation is coming right around the corner. Snell is that 2-time Cy Young Award winner. He's done it in both the American and National Leagues. He's coming off an interesting last season with the Giants. It didn't start well in San Francisco, multiple injuries in the first half, but in the second half, he was dominant. He was back to form. He threw a no-hitter. He had a sub-2 ERA, a bunch of strikeouts, and that's obviously why the Dodgers were interested and gave him this payday. And now consider the Dodgers starting 5 or maybe even 6 in their rotation. It's going to be ruthless. It's going to be untouchable. So long as all those arms can stay healthy, the Dodgers are a force to be reckoned with, and that's just on the mound, let alone their starting 9 in the lineup. And how about where the Dodgers are coming from in terms of 2024? Didn't they just win the World Series? Didn't they just sign Shohei Ohtani going into last season? Didn't Ohtani just put up baseball's first ever 50-50 campaign? And I know we're talking about the Dodgers here as a talented group of players. There's no question. The Freddie Freemans and Mookie Bettses and on. But think about the Dodgers right now as a business. And that's eventually going to be the point of this video, how baseball might need to consider right now a salary cap and a salary floor for all of its teams. Save that thought. We'll get back to it in just a second. More on the Dodgers. I mean, they're printing money. It's another winter of renovations at Dodger Stadium. They're taking what they're earning and they're putting it right back into their players and their product. And you got to think, being in a major market like Los Angeles with the viewership and the ticket sales, and Dodger Stadium is huge, and the revenues, and players like Ohtani are bringing in revenues from overseas. These are new untapped ways for ball clubs to make money like the Dodgers are doing. You can't be too upset at it. Like, they didn't break any rules to get to this point. But now that they're here, and now that they're spending so much more than anybody else, I've always been for the players, and I will explain that in a second, but at this point, are they and the other small handful of teams spending north of, $250 million a year, are they kind of ruining baseball for the rest of the teams and actually enabling some of the smallest spending teams? Are they doing that with the luxury tax and the revenue sharing? Are they damaging baseball by spending so much year after year? Anyway, in terms of the Dodgers, this is the craziest part. It feels like they're not even done. Like, Snell is the first big 9-figure signing of this offseason. There's going to be more 9-figure contracts across Major League Baseball, but you know what? The Dodgers might even have another one up their sleeves. And that's going to eventually lead me to this salary cap and floor conversation. And I know other teams right now in the National League West, if you're the Padres, if you're the Diamondbacks, obviously if you're the Giants, Blake Snell was just on your team last season. Now you got to go up against this as a Dodger. You notice I'm not even including the Rockies in that NL West conversation. So Giants fans, I feel you. It's not a great sentiment right now. You probably feel cooked. It's going to be hard to go up against this Dodger team, no matter who you are, but especially San Francisco, all things considered. So let me now pivot and go back to the main issue here and why I wanted to make this video. Of course, we can talk about Snell and the contract and how much it's worth and how much the Dodgers are going to pay him, but the bigger issue here is the question right now, and it's the consideration of a salary cap and a salary floor across Major League Baseball. Now, I want to throw this in here. I've always typically been against having a salary cap in professional sports, and that's because I see the players' side of this. I'm somebody who has largely worked under contract in broadcasting, and I understand when you get into these negotiations, the last thing you'd want is the company trying to acquire you, trying to pay you, be limited by some external figure or source, like in this case, Major League Baseball. You want to get fair market value, and it's not your fault if you want to be surrounded by the best of the best, and they're also getting paid. I've always wanted winning to win out, and I've wanted the players to get what their market value is. If somebody's willing to pay you that money, that's what your market value is. But now we've arrived at such a time with the Dodgers kind of bending so many rules and spending so much money over a long, sustained period of time that it kind of makes me wonder, is this really actually good for the rest of teams in Major League Baseball? Like, is it good for the middle 10 teams of payrolls in Major League Baseball? And how about the bottom spending teams in baseball? Because the Dodgers are spending so much, there is that luxury tax. They're basically only enabling those lowest spending teams to continue not spending money and receiving that revenue sharing money coming in every single year because the Dodgers just did this. And I don't know why it's here and now. I mean, the Yankees have spent a lot over time. The Mets have spent, in fact, the Mets spent the most in Major League Baseball last year, $320 million. The Padres went off the charts in terms of their payroll in recent times, but it's just something about the Dodgers right now that's getting me to these thoughts. And maybe some of it is just the deferral of money. I mean, that caught everybody by surprise last offseason, but you right now have some teams, again, like the Mets in Major League Baseball, spending 5 times as much as the Oakland A's did in 2024. The top 10 is mostly $200 and $300 million payroll teams. The median is somewhere around 170, and then you've got a couple teams near the bottom spending 80-something million dollars, and the A's spending 60-something million dollars in 2024. I don't know exactly how to implement a salary cap. Is it a hard cap that you can't exceed? Is it a soft cap, which has some room for still luxury tax, but maybe that's how you implement the salary floor? Every team has to spend a baseline amount of money, or you don't get revenue sharing unless you spend that baseline amount of money. And I'm not even saying here that the salary cap needs to be $200 million. That would cut off the top 10 teams of payrolls last year. You can put that salary cap up at $300 million. You can put it at $320 million. But at this point, it needs to be established. It doesn't need to squish all the teams at the top, but put it up at the high end of where teams are spending right now. It just sets a brand new boundary so that teams don't go even 2 steps crazier than where they are right now and exacerbate this problem of the haves and have-nots. And again, that salary floor, does it exist to just make everybody spend a certain amount and make everybody seem like they're trying? Or is it just existing so that the teams on revenue sharing, they only get that revenue sharing money so long as they spend a certain amount to get to that bottom threshold, that salary floor? I want to make sure this is clear. I also don't believe that money equates directly to winning. Like, money puts you in a position to sustain winning and to be consistent in your winning. A lot of times you can have a young team and you're not paying them much, but eventually if you want to keep that young team and they come out of the arbitration years, you got to pay them. You got to take care of them. Or you have to go out on the free agent market and spend money that way. But to sustain your success, you can have success for short bursts of time without spending money. But if you don't consistently spend a certain amount of money, not even a large amount, but a consistent amount of money, you're not going to consistently be a successful baseball team on the field. Money doesn't guarantee you winning a World Series like the Dodgers just handled their business. That's not always how it works. It just happened to go that way in 2024. But money sure does increase the odds, right, of a team like the Dodgers being in the playoffs and overcoming adversity and having all the right, tools in their bag to pull out in the right situations to get the job done. And yeah, it digs the holes deeper for some teams that they will never get to where the Dodgers just were in winning a World Series. Again, I don't think any of the players of Major League Baseball are going to suffer if there's a brand new salary cap set close to $300 million. Let's call it 270 right now to start with. I still think that most players on most every single team are going to get paid their fair market value. It's just that teams like the Dodgers can't go crazy. They can't bend the rules. They can't have a signing like this and Blake Snell goes somewhere else and the superstardom across baseball gets a little bit more spread out. I'm not here to hate on the Dodgers. I'm really not. It just so happens to be that the way they've been operating and the moves they've been making and what they're continuing to do and what I'm expecting them to do in the next handful of weeks and months before the 2025 season, it's just going to make it even more clear that right now, baseball really needs to consider, for its own good, a salary cap and a salary floor so that the future of this game and the viability of all its teams can exist, and it can be a successful competitive product for years and decades to come. That's the end of this video. Thumbs up down below because you made it here all the way to the final seconds. Also, before this is over, go down there, hit that subscribe button so I can definitely see you back here next time.